In our busy, everyday world, we sometimes find ourselves faced with questions about life, family, work, and even God. For Christians, answers can be found in a relationship with Jesus Christ. It's a relationship that reveals new avenues towards finding answers, a relationship that helps make sense of the mysteries we sometimes face. St. Jerome said that ignorance of Scripture is ignorance of Jesus Christ. So, if for some of us this relationship is non-existent or needs to be rekindled, then we should begin it again. And just like any relationship, it begins with an introduction. All right, next in the Johannine corpus, we'll talk about the three letters of John. John 1, John 2, 1 John, 2 John, 3 John. This is an interesting collection because many people are wondering what in the world, the 3 John is such a small letter. And it's a letter, but I think it's even smaller than Philemon. So it's really, and it has very little to do with anything. And the second letter of John seems to be a summary of the first. So people were thinking, how is this the case that these three are important? How are they important? Well, they're important because this is the letter that John wants to send to a community that's having trouble. The problem is the community that he's sending it to, their leader has taken over control forcefully, if you will, and doesn't recognize the authority of John. He's saying that John is not the apostle. So this again, you have false teachers and people taking over the church. So with a longer letter, there is a summary that comes with it. And so John wants to get this longer letter and a summary, sort of an executive summary for the official, who's to read this letter to the church. Well, what is it all about? And so I've got this. But this, 3 John, it is a letter of recommendation to Gaius, saying, look, the person that has this packet, this summary and then the letter itself, is trustworthy. And I want you to read this and then get this to the disciples, get this to the people in your church that don't believe I'm, that Diotrephes, is breaking out against. So what we have is him writing this and saying, look, this is a letter from me to you, and I want you to read it. The person that has it has my trust. Here is my mark. And it says, I have written something to the church, but Diotrephes, who likes to put himself first, does not acknowledge my authority. So if I come, I will bring up what he is doing, accusing me falsely of evil words. But he wants this letter to go out. And so this is sort of letter of recommendation for the person carrying the summary and then the final letter to him. Now, what are the themes of this letter? Well, you can't love the Father and love the world, can you? You can only love one. Now, here's also the place where John talks about antichrists, and he uses the plural. There are many antichrists out there. Where do they come from? Well, they're those that go against Christ. So the antichrist isn't Satan himself, it's anybody who does the work of Satan. They are the antichrists. And so he's bringing this up because Diotrephes is doing the work of Satan, and he is preaching something against Christ. He is the antichrist. So when you have questions of the antichrist, he's saying very much so that, look, these people are going against the teachings of Christ, as brought to you by me and the other apostles. So there are antichrists. Now, this is also, in this one letter, 1 John, 3 especially, we find, and 4, we find the definition. What is God? Exodus gave us the name, I am. But what is God? And John says God is love. This is where we get that phrase. He says God is love. And if you do not have love, you do not have God. You know, this idea that love is God, God is love. And so if it's true agapic love, then there is God. So that's how we know we're children of God. And he also mentions that there's, again, the letter itself is a general teaching, same type of thing that the Catholic epistles had. This encouragement, keep fighting the good fight. Here's how to be a good Christian. And so he's talking, this is where we get the doctrine of mortal sin versus, say, venial sin, or mortal sin, the sin that's deadly and sin that isn't deadly, things like that. So otherwise, it's fairly straightforward, but the controversy about getting it into the hands of the people, that's where the other two letters come from. And so this whole packet was carried by one person, entrusted by John to deliver this to the church, because an antichrist is taking over.